Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bluddworth, and as you can see by the graphics, tonight's video is going to be an OSR ongoing campaign, so kind of like a recap of some of the things that I have been doing these last several weeks and months, as well as some upcoming one-shots that I'm planning on, and videos as well. I want to apologize that the past week I have not done anything video wise. It's been kind of a hectic week, and if you've been following my channel, you know that I'm a school teacher, and been wrapping up the end of a school year, which is usually a fairly hectic time. I'm also the union, teachers union chapter leader in my building. Have a lot of things going on, normally at the end of a school year with that, but I'm also retiring. So I have both, the election process to do for whomever is going to be taking over my position as the union leader in the building, and then just my regular retirement closeout, ending my career, as of July 1st, and just looking to see where I'm moving over into the next chapter, which is still going to be with the teachers union, but in a different capacity. And so really looking forward to that. And it is going to provide me a lot of additional time to devote to running games and trying out some different games I'm looking forward to, and still continuing to, to develop and run my ongoing campaigns as well. So without further ado, let's start taking a look at what has been going on and what I intend to do over the next couple of weeks and months ahead. So the crown jewel of my, nearly last year of OSR role-playing has been my AD&D First Edition campaign. We just completed week 45. We're about to enter, obviously, week 46. So that's a little over, 11 months of continuously running our campaign. Same group of players now going on, primarily that 10 months. We started out with 10. We're down to 7 at this point. And the core group has been there the entire time. So it's been really exciting for us to come together week after week without fail, even though we've had, several hiccups here and there, mostly on my part of, just things getting in the way of being able to run our regular, Monday and then later on our Tuesday night schedule. As I said, my schedule gets a little crazy from time to time. And so, but we've managed to come together every single week, without fail, with only a couple of reschedules here or there. And the player party group is doing, really well together. The characters are starting to hit level 7. And this is after, like I said, 45 weeks. They're starting to hit some, truly major challenges, because they've always been a large group, and they hadn't always like steamrolled everything, but they've had a slightly easier time than sometimes I expected. And that's because when you have a very large group, they have a lot of different opportunities to make up for, some bad rolls here or there. And even though they had plenty of close calls, and that was something that I had mentioned in a recent post on another person's channel, I had mentioned that I believe we've had about 7 or 8 instances where, players had to roll for system shock checks to make sure that their characters didn't die. And in our recent gameplay that had occurred, on 2 occasions where, players all of a sudden took more than 50% damage in a single strike, and that triggers a system shock roll in AD&D First Edition. And so, fortunately, they made it, but they're starting to realize that as they've hit that mid-level band, that of challenges, that they're going to come across creatures, or entities or whatever that hit really hard in a single shot. And so that's going to be a challenge that I think will be a lot of fun for both myself and them to deal with. So that's our AD&D campaign. I am now currently in week 2 of our Swords and Wizardry. So I've been running Swords and Wizardry as a hex crawl, using West March's kind of style of gameplay. So it's a hex crawl that kind of develops as the player characters expand through that their exploration of the world, and really building it in real time as they go. The world is being built up, and so that's something I've never done before in that way. I usually do a lot more pre-planning of various things. So there's certainly an interesting aspect to just creating on the fly, as it were, and having a true sandbox where the players are creating as much as I am of the world. So, for example, I just had one of my players today created his first cleric in this gameplay style that we're using, and I told him that you can actually create your own deity, choose the deity's domains, the alignment, the preferred weapon, even though that doesn't exist in Swords and Wizardry. I just thought it would be a nice world building kind of thing to do, to give the players that amount of agency over the world as it gets fleshed out before their very eyes. And so it's been a lot of fun doing this so far, even though we're kind of early on. And on both occasions, even though I have 10 players sorted, and ready to go, we've only been getting about 2 to 3 players coming in for each of these sessions. So it'll be a little matter of tweaking or just expanding the number of sessions that we have. I think also playing bi-weekly has been somewhat of a problem as well. So people have been struggling with knowing when the session actually is. And so there's some communication. I think that what I'm going to discover is that when you are scheduling, game sessions, I think it's better to have more frequent and and a very steady, this is when it's going to be, and just finding players that can always make it at that time, rather than this kind of free-flowing method of using West Marches that way, where you just run a game anytime someone wants to run one, or anytime someone wants you to run it for them. That's certainly going to not be something that I can do until the school year is over. So that's the 2 ongoing campaigns that I have. Some upcoming one-shots. I'm certainly looking to do an upcoming one-shot using Lion and Dragon and Sword and Caravans. So Lion and Dragon is an OSR RPG, authentic medieval OSR RPG put up by RPG Pundit. And then Sword and Caravan is the newest, his newest installment of a setting book and some added character classes and such for Lion and Dragon, and kind of moving the locale, not the time period, but the locale of where you can take your adventures to it. So I'm certainly looking to do a character creation video for that, and do a one shot, and then we'll see. Perhaps once I have more time, my campaign, or I'll have another campaign that starts to run using that campaign setting, and going forward with that in a long-term type of campaign. But I'm going to start off with a one-shot, just to learn to run the system, and then we'll see. We'll go from there. So upcoming videos. So I've been requested to show world building for World Without Numbers. So I did a video for this when I first got this book a long time ago, and I believe I had started going through some of the elements of this, and I've been specifically asked to do a video on just the world building that is in here. And as you can see, I've been preparing for it with all these little tabs, and so I want to do a really good job of covering how to run a campaign using this system, or even just taking what is in this book here and possibly transferring some of the systems that they have here for campaign building, and taking this, and you can carry this over into other game systems. And so that's another thing that I will be taking a look at. So be on the lookout over the next couple of days, actually, a video for Worlds Without Number, and that will be, like I said, over the next couple of days, there'll be a video on that, actually walking you through how this book handles creating a campaign. So in depth on that. Another video that I'm going to have, because there's been some, a lot of discussion about old school D&D, and some of the things that are upcoming, like Stranger Things is kind of focusing on what the characters in that show, who they're calling Vecna, and how basically they're taking a lot of the nomenclature, the names of creatures and everything from first edition AD&D or old school D&D, and talking about them. And I wanted to do a video specifically talking about the Blackmore campaign. I think it's important to, really do a deeper dive into the first Dungeons and Dragons campaign that was ever written, and it actually predates Dungeons and Dragons, as a matter of fact. So this is Dave Arneson's Blackmore campaign, and I've never gone like really in depth on the campaign itself and talked about it and gone through step by step through it. So there will certainly be spoilers of the campaign itself, and the module itself, but it's just something that I want to spend a lot of time on and focus on it, and just showing what the first campaign was really all about, and and potentially the brilliance of where it was at the time. And then we could talk about how it's how the game has grown since then, and not just the game, but in general, what campaigns look like across a multitude of OSR gaming. So perhaps when I do that discussion, I'll also open it up on a live stream, and have other DMs come in and talk about their campaigns, and kind of have like a roundtable talk about campaigns in general. And it doesn't have to be D&D; it could be any game system whatsoever. It's something I try to emphasize as often as possible, that the OSR is not just Dungeons and Dragons or Dungeons and Dragons clones, or whether it be retro clones or whether it's just the old editions and running the old editions. Old school role playing includes other game systems as well. And so my table is always open to anyone who wants to talk about any of the old school games, whether it be Twilight 2000 or Villains and Vigilantes or Gangbusters or Star Frontiers or Dungeons and Dragons or Tunnels of Trolls and Bushido, and I can go on and on and on talking about the game systems that were out in the late 70s and early 80s that, just a lot of fun to play, and still there's quite a bit of interest in those game systems. And if you haven't been aware of them, it's a good opportunity to actually become aware of some of those older game systems. As a newer player coming to these games, I've always experienced as a GM introducing modern players, 5e players in particular, to some of these older game systems, and they, almost always found a real enjoyment in getting into the older stuff, and just the essence of the game and the feel of it, and just the way that the systems tended to be much more simple and much more dangerous in some cases, and just a totally different feel than what they're experiencing in their modern games. And sometimes it's just a difference. They just play differently. But in other cases, they really feel that there's a qualitative difference between the old school versus some of the modern games as well. So, hey, whatever you're enjoying to play is what you really should dedicate the most of your time playing, but you shouldn't close the doors on trying a variety of tabletop RPGs out there, and that includes solo play as well. So, there are some, and I will do some videos on some solo play materials that I'm expecting to get in the mail any day now. So so that's another thing, as I can segue into upcoming videos. So as I said, I'm going to have upcoming videos for Worlds Without Number, for the Blackmore campaign, and certainly I'm going to do a character generation video for Lion and Dragon, utilizing the newest Sword and Caravan supplement to create a Crusader, a Merchant, and and maybe one of the other classes there as well. So I'll make all three classes, and then I'll craft a quick scenario, and then do a one-shot running that scenario as well. But I will do some additional videos of Swords and Wizardry, since that is my secondary campaign. So we'll spend some time with that as well, and then anything else that comes down the pike that really catches my my eye. I am planning to attend some conventions coming up. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it to VentureCon. The airfare is just astronomical right now, and I don't see that happening. I'm kind of holding out hope that airfare does drop, but I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. So my next con that's guaranteed will be one that's local or more local. In Connecticut in September. That's Shirecon, September 17th, I believe. It's a one-day convention, and I already have my ticket for that, and certainly will be attending that one. And then I'll see if there's anything else that comes up during the summer that's going to be local. So, so yeah, unfortunately, the ravages of this horrible economy, and gas prices and inflation and such. Not to get too political here, but it just made it virtually impossible to attend, any long distance cons right now. So, it's unfortunate. Hopefully, things will turn around in the months to come, and we'll see some easing up on the travel prices. But as always, a lot of things just remain to be seen, and we'll see what comes out of this summer and such, and hopefully there'll be some more early fall local conventions that I'll be able to attend in the New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey tri-state area. So looking forward to that. So once again, thanks for joining, and hope you like this video, and be prepared to see several videos this upcoming week. So you'll have a great evening. Take care.